Hello everyone, it's Patricia from TarantulaHeaven.com. Right here we have Miss Spidey, my Chilean rosehair, Jew rosea, who is being very naughty. She's climbing on her glass dome, and fortunately she cannot do this, but she's trying to climb the ceiling. She can't, fortunately. Anyway, so you'll see her do some naughty behavior and that'll be great. So today I want to share something really special. I found an article that was like back in January 2025. This is my first time seeing it. And it's about a guy who actually got back into tarantulas after not having been in the hobby for a really long time for his mental health. And now what he's doing is spreading information about tarantulas and helping people overcome their fears. And if you guys have been on the channel before, you know that that's right up my alley. So I wanted to share a little bit of his work and what he's been doing. It's a really beautiful, inspiring story. So the man is Aaron Phoenix, and he's about 37 years old. He's actually from Yate, South Gloucestershire in England. I don't know if any of you from across the world know him or know of him. He first got published for having a big collection, I believe. Now he has over 1,000 tarantulas, and I think that that's the most I've ever heard of. I'm sure there are people with bigger collections, but I think the most that I've seen in Facebook groups or like known are people who have a few hundred or 100. 1,000 is a bit much. And so he's got a huge collection, and he's using that collection to help people overcome their fears. And so now he's gotten a bit of publicity, and he travels up and down England, like visiting people. He actually, in 2021, started to accumulate the tarantulas, and this was to help with his mental health. And now he says, like, I've been born to save spiders, and with a collection that big, I think so. And so this was also during COVID, which I'm sure really helped mental health too, because so many of us were struggling. He keeps the spiders in 2 locations. Most of them are in one room, which he calls his tarantula cave, and then he has a separate breeding room, I believe, in his home. In his collection, he said the biggest tarantula is the size of a dinner plate, and I've heard the dinner plate comparison before, so my feeling is that it's probably like a Goliath bird-eating tarantula, because that's kind of the species that gets that size. Aaron said of his collection, it's easily over 1,000 now. It sounds like a lot, but in the spider world, it's not. That is kind of true. When you're breeding spiders, they can have anything from 20 babies to a few thousand. I rescued well over 200 spiders last year. I got messages all the time from people who've had large collections who want to downsize or fallen out of love with the hobby. I really respect that, because that does happen all the time. I've seen a lot of situations where that is true, or someone's having an emergency, like they're getting evicted, or they broke up with a partner or something like that, or a parent is making them get rid of, who knows. But I see these situations happen all the time, and no one wants to be in those situations, but sometimes people don't know what they're getting into. Sometimes people have some really unfortunate circumstances and they have to make big changes in their life. And so it's really nice to know that there are people like Aaron who are there to help and to make sure that these spiders, tarantulas, get a good home versus having to be, I don't know, taken to a pet store, or, I mean, some people just like they do with cats and puppies, they just leave them outside in a tank, and it's so sad. I've seen stories like that. It's heartbreaking. Or just give them away to somebody who, like, they don't really even know what they're gonna do with it. You know, who knows? Probably didn't vet the person. So it's really nice to hear that Aaron really tries to help in these situations. He first started to collect tarantulas, and I love this because I'm a therapist. His doctors actually told him that it might help him with his mental health after he received a bipolar diagnosis. And I can only imagine what that was like to struggle with during COVID in 2021. And the inspiration actually came from his teenage years when he'd had a pet tarantula that was really enriching for him, but he had to give that up. So his doctors maybe knew that, and they suggested it again, that he go back to a hobby that he used to love to help with his mental health. I've spoken a lot about how tarantula keeping can help with mental health, especially if you're depressed or really anxious, things like that, just because they're not an animal that you need to do a lot for. I think being clinically depressed and having a dog, for example, when you can barely get out of bed, would be really, really hard. So I think tarantulas sometimes are like the perfect pet for somebody who's struggling but needs something to give them a little bit of joy. So his collection, once he started tarantula keeping again in his 30s, grew very quickly. And this is partially because he rescues abandoned tarantulas from around England. And he's also working towards trying to sell tarantulas to other collectors or spider lovers, so like good homes. And he said that helping people overcome their fear of spiders has been really rewarding. I feel the same about this kind of work, spreading information, having a channel about tarantulas, sharing silly stories about Spidey and other tarantulas so that people can kind of break down their fears slowly. He said, after the last story went out, he's talking about the first time he got published for this, I had so many people message me showing interest in the different colors and species, and a lot of people asked me to help them get over their fears. So I've been traveling around to help people more or less all over the country. It's quite a fun one to do. A lot of people are fascinated with spiders, so helping someone get from the point of being petrified to then holding a spider in their hand is amazing. That's huge. He said 9 out of 10 times I've got them to the point where they can hold one. It's so rewarding helping people get over their fears, and the majority of my family are petrified of spiders too. I find that that's very common, where a tarantula keeper will say that their partner or roommate or parents, who knows, are scared of spiders still, even though they know and they see that the spider is not a threatening animal. It's a really, really sweet thing. Aaron actually hosts children's birthday parties, and I think that this is a beautiful way to get children to not be afraid of spiders right away, because kids are so curious. I remember I used to bring Spidey to a children's school, and I gave, I think, 1 or 2 lessons on the tarantulas, and I brought her in. The kids were so enthused. It was the teachers who didn't want to get close, you know, so like, but by the end of it, they were kind of into it too. They were very curious. So education is so important. What Aaron is doing is so important. And so he's also trying to get his breeding facility up and running. So I guess he can have even more tarantulas. I don't know. It's a lot of tarantulas. And he also said, in terms of the space needed to store 1,000 spiders, he said he doesn't need as much space as people might think. He said, believe it or not, they're mostly just in one room. I have my facility that I'm setting up for breeding, and I also have a separate room in my house. They don't actually need a lot of space, unlike snakes. A lot of babies / spiderlings are kept in these vile pots when they're young. I believe I was born to save spiders, rescue them, and help them get over their fears. When it comes to feeding and rehousing, I take precautions so that they don't escape. So it sounds like Aaron's goal right now is to breed, have a bunch of spiderlings that don't need a lot of room, and then perhaps sell those before they get fully grown. Because 1,000 of these would be, you would need a mansion, right? Or like you'd need a huge, huge basement or something like that. I don't know. So I imagine he has like a lot of smaller spiders that make up part of that 1,000 spiders collection. But it sounds like he has a great goal. It sounds like he's trying to do it as ethically as possible, and his goal is to be a positive force in the tarantula hobby in Europe. And I absolutely love that. I love the idea of saving tarantulas that are being abandoned or can't be cared for. And I love the idea of educating people, especially kids, from the start about tarantulas so that they don't develop a undeserved fear of spiders. But anyway, guys, so I'll link the article below. There's some really cool pictures in that article of Aaron and his tarantulas, so please do check it out. And I hope you enjoyed watching Spidey crawl around today. She's very active right now. Have a great day, and I'll see you in 2 weeks for Tarantula Tuesday. Take care. Bye.